first we stand at the top of the mat. I will just show this side. Now, first one, mountain pose. Still start with mountain pose. And remember, separate your feet, hips width apart, and separate your waist evenly through four corners of the feet. And remember that the Pada Bandha foot lock. Lift the arches, grounding down, and at the same time lifting up the arches. And let the toes separate wide, and tap the base of the toes on the floor. Now, gently shift your weight into your right leg. Still keep that sensation, that Pada Bandha in our right foot. And hands on our hip, lift our heel, maybe rest on our opposite ankle to train the balance awareness in our right ankle. Now just feel that these subtle movements in your muscles, in the small muscles in our right leg, maybe they are activated together to try to stay balanced. And bring awareness to your right, the base of your right foot. And maybe lift it even higher to the inner side of your calf. Now maybe you just notify that I'm just a little trembling here in my right calf, my right ankle. That means they are working very hard. They're strengthening and building the awareness in the balanced tissues. Now, when I just try to keep the balance, maybe I lift the foot into the inner side of my right thigh. And now my right leg, my supporting leg, needs to work even harder. But try to grounding down the four corners like the four tires of a car, and lift the arch, lift it up so your arch is not collapsing here. Well, when balancing poses, it's really easier to grip your toes into the mat. That's not only happened to you, it's always happened to me. So if you do that, it's easy to collapse your arches. So try to bring your weight into the four corners we just mentioned. Let's try the other side. Well, tree pose. So first, shift your weight into your left foot. You can just switch side to side to help you find that four corners easily. And then roll your foot forward until you find you ground down the four corners, and then release the toes. And shift your weight into this standing leg. Squeeze the standing leg really strong and engaged here. And then we lift our heel, maybe just rest here on your ankle. That's totally fine. You just need to build the strength in your left ankle, your left foot, the intrinsic muscles of your left sole, and then maybe even higher. Now this time, I just try to move my weight into the four corners. I can lift my toes just to check you're not weighing too much in your toes, and release them gently. Keep lifting through the arch as you maybe lift the sole of the foot into the inner side of our thigh, or maybe not. Always remember grounding down and lifting at the same time. And release softly your toes. Now bring the knee back to center before you land the foot down. All right, now maybe rotate your ankles. So if you have the flat foot or the bunions, in every yoga practice, try not to hold on your foot too much time. Just try to take it dynamically, like come in and move out. Just to make sure they are released at enough time. Okay, now this is tree pose. So if you have a block, place the block in between your legs of the inner thighs. Keep your feet hips width apart. And grounding down your four corners, keep lifting through the arch. And we sit into our chair pose. Well, in chair pose, a lot of people just shift too much weight into their heels. What we're gonna do is to separate the weight evenly through four corners of feet. And then lift the arches. Squeeze the legs together will help you do that. Maybe lift up back into Tadasana. And then let's do some dynamic movement here. Now we sit into chair pose, lengthen your tailbone down, hands on your hips, squeeze the legs together. Maybe this time lift your toes and release. Another motion here to do is to lift your heels. Maybe even to try one heel lifted at one time and shift it to the other side. Keep your hips, your torso facing forward to stretch your ankles, your tendons. And you will see these movements mimic the walking cycle when we walk. Especially if you have weak feet, that will strengthen your feet. The intrinsic side of the muscles of your foot, we also call it foot core. And you will have two sides of key motion in these movements, the dorsiflexion and the plantar flexion. So when you do this, my left ankle is just like the plantar flexion, stretch the top side of the ankle. And when we come back into our chair pose, our ankle is just like a small angle. This is the dorsiflexion, and this is a plantar flexion. Now, inhale, lift up, back into mountain pose. And take the block away from you. And then we stand at the top of the mat. We'll come into downward facing dog. Inhale, reach your arms up. And exhale, forward fold. Inhale, halfway up. Find your flat back. And exhale, ground your palms and step back. Lift your hips up and back into downward facing dog. Separate your feet, hips waist apart. Now we're paddling out our feet, bicycle our knees, stretch our calves, our tendons, and build some awareness in our big toe to keep you balanced here. Now, we're grounding down our left foot, lift our right foot, three-legged dog. Sorry, I just have limited space. And press into your palms, draw your knee into the chest, and then we step through. Maybe you need as many steps as you need, or maybe use your hands to support you here. And then we spin our back toes to the long edge of the mat. Use your front heel, intersect your back arch. Squeeze your legs together and raise up into warrior two. Bend your front knee over your front ankle. Now in warrior two, we pressing into the four corners of the foot, no matter the front foot or right foot. Four corners of foot, stack your knee over your ankle. You are not drifting inward, especially if you have the flat foot or Bunions issue. Build that strength in your inner ankle by stacking your knee. Try to point your knee towards your toes. And as a back foot, you also need to grounding down through the four corners, but try to lift the arch. We always say that pressing into the outer side of the back foot, but at the same time, try to grounding down the base of your big toe, the ball joint of the big toe. So you are not overly outward rotating, but lifting the arch of the foot. And now we inhale, straighten the front leg. Maybe raise your arm up to the ceiling and exhale back into warrior two. Try to find this dynamic movement, synchronize your breath and movements to build that strength gently, to stretch your ankles. Now we straighten our front leg. Maybe you need a shorter stance for our triangle pose. If you need to shorten the stance in our standing flow, keep the front leg where they are and just move your back foot inward slightly for safety reason. Now, we stay here and keep our hips open here. And now, try to move your awareness into the four corners of your right foot, grounding down it evenly here. Lift the inner arch by draw the big toe, the ball joint of big toe into the heel. Try to find that sensation here. And we reach our fingertips forward, send your hips back, and we lean to the side to your amount here. Now, triangle pose is a pose where you build your strength, your legs, stretch your hamstrings, but at the same time, you need to keep balance. So when you keep balance, find your four corners, lift your inner arch. Well, keep the toes of the front foot soft here. You're not gripping into the toes. If you're gripping the toes, you're easily to roll inside, roll inward. That will collapsing your arch. Inhale, lift up, back to warrior two. We cartwheel our hands down, back into our downward facing dog. Now ground down your right foot, lift your left foot up, and roll forward. Step your shoulders over your wrists, and step forward. And now this time, roll the back toes to the long edge of the mat, and find that intersecting between your front heel and your back arch. Grounding down through the four corners of the front foot, and we open our arms and cartwheel into our warrior two. Now, the same in warrior two. We still build that awareness, our Pada Bandha, in our bent foot and our straightened foot. Inhale, raise up your arms as you straighten the legs. Now exhale, grounding down into your warrior two. And always remember that you are not collapsing into the inner side of the front foot. So your knee should always track your toes. So if you're collapsing inward, your arches will be collapsing here. They will bear too much weight. So bring your knee back to center, just a stack over your ankle. Lift your arches. And take the toes of the front foot soft here. Inhale, rise up. Now exhale, warrior two. Now straighten the front leg. Maybe you need to step inward just a bit for triangle pose. So triangle pose, the foot setting is, the foot awareness is basically the same with warrior two. We straighten our leg and reach forward. So both sides of waist nice and long here. And grounding down. If you like an extended version, maybe fingertips up and overhead. Try to keep the front toes soft here. Grounding down the four corners. Sometimes we also call it the tripod in our foot. That is the middle of the heel and the two balls of our foot. So just try to keep that awareness to help you build your stability and your balance here. Coming to warrior two. And now we cartwheel our hands down, back into downward facing dog. Well, here, you can just come here in downward dog. Or if you like, add on some Vinyasa flow. That is always a good way to strengthen your foot. So now we shift our weight forward, come onto the tip of the toes, and lower halfway down, elbows in, and roll onto your toes, and into upward dog. And roll over again into downward dog. Well, if you like to have this Vinyasa flow tutorial, you can just check it my past video. There is a video, it's just about this several options for this Vinyasa flow. Let's do it one more time. Come into your plank, stack your shoulders over your wrist. Shift your weight forward, come to the tip of the toes. Lower halfway down and then roll yourself up, sides of the floor, roll over the toes. This is a good option, a drill for your toes to be flexible. But always remember that if you have the toes issues like the bunions or the flat feet, if it's rolling over the toes, just skip it or take it gently. So you can just come over your toe, come over your flat plank pose. Instead of roll over your toes, just lower halfway down, and one foot, top of foot flat, and then the other, and then lift it up, maybe into your cobra, or maybe into your upward facing dog. So instead of roll over the toes, we tuck our toes under, and then the other, and then lift the sitting bones up and back into downward dog. And now we lift our right foot up and come forward into our low lunge pose by dropping our back knee down. Now we will add on some. Now we come into this low lunge pose. We step up and hands on your knees, hands on your hips. Now here you can just say my knee is behind, slightly behind my ankle. I sink into this pose by shifting my weight forward. And inhale, come up. Just to add on some gently dorsiflexion in our ankles. You can take it gradually in a slow motion. The back toes, you can tuck it under for stability. Or maybe the top of the foot flat. And now lower down the hands, maybe on your blocks. We will have some half split here. So as we send the hips back, we gradually straighten our front leg, but keep a soft bend in your right knee. And then we flex our right toes into our knee. And we take it dynamic forward, roll your foot forward. And the grounding down, the pushing gently into the heel. And find this stretch in our calf and in our intrinsic muscles of our right foot. This movement will really activate our sole muscle, our intrinsic muscles in our foot and our ankles. And then we lift our back knee. Lift our back knee, grounding down the four corners of the right foot. Maybe step forward just a bit. We're coming to Warrior Three. So in Warrior Three, it's a balance pose that will strengthen your foot, your ankles, your calves. Now find your foundation here. Shift your weight forward. So set your blocks just in front of you. But keep the space between the blocks and your foot about your torso length. Maybe tap your back toes under just a bit. Try to square your hips back into the mat. And maybe lift higher. Now just to feel that your foundation is stable here. You can lift the toes to check and release. And remember to lift the arch of the right foot of the standing leg. They're not collapsing inward. And now maybe I shift my blocks forward just a bit. Stay here. Or lift my heel. onto my toes and release. You will feel your calves maybe speaking to you right now. That's a good sign. They are just strengthening. Have a gentle stretch here. Just like what we did in chair pose, to strengthen your muscles under your soles and your tendon. Now, back down into your lunge pose, and we step back into our downward dog. Now, left foot up and step through. And lower your knee into a low lunge here. Now, we rise up. We can paddle your knee if you need that. And we sink into this pose, grounding our pelvis closer to the mat. And build some strength in our front ankle. Lift up by pressing into the four corners of the left foot. And exhale, grounding down. And remember, your knee is over your ankle. You are not drifting your knee inward. Inhale up. And exhale. Always use the midline of the knee tracking the toes, our second and our third toe. All right, now take the blocks if you need that. Walk the hands back on your shoulders. Gradually straighten the front leg. And leave some space at the back of your knee. Flex the left foot to draw the toes into your knee. You can feel the stretch in your calf and the intrinsic side of the sole of the foot. Roll it forward. And exhale back, just to take it dynamically. Well, in any yoga poses, if you hold in a pose for too much time, if that feels uncomfortable for you, maybe just to try to find some dynamic motion instead of being static in one pose. Well, another thing is when you flex the foot, this angle we call it the dorsiflexion. Well, we want to take it very gently. So when you draw the toes into the knee, we don't want to draw it very aggressively. Instead, we draw it very gently and slowly to give your ankle enough time to find this motion. Now, blocks by the sides, back into our low lunge. Tap our back toes under, lift our back knee, step in to shorten your stance. Move your blocks in front of you. We're gonna prep for our warrior three. So leave enough space between your front foot and the blocks. Rest your fingers on the blocks. Lift the back toes, maybe just to float them away from the mat, just a few inches off. Or if you like, maybe lift it even higher, but just to try to make your core engaged and your pelvis, your hips square to the mat. Now we stay here in this warrior three to strengthen your ankle of your standing leg. Flex the back foot, and then you can micro bend your standing knee and really activate, strengthening, engage your standing leg here. Or if you like to add on more heat here, maybe you can roll the toes onto your toes, lift the heel, and exhale, release. Maybe up for 2, and exhale, grounding down for 3. Just like this pumping, this rhythmic pumping movements to help you to improve your blood circulation and have the 2 dorsiflexion and flat flexion motion at the same time. You stretch the soles, the intrinsic muscles of a foot, the tendon, and build the awareness, the strength in the balls of the feet. Toes down, soften the knee, and back into your lunge pose and step back in downward dog. If you want to add more side of the ankle stretch, maybe lift the heels and shift it to side. Right, now bend your knees, look forward. You can hop forward or just a step forward. Inhale halfway up. Exhale forward fold. Now, separate your feet hips width apart. Just about a little wider than your sitting bones. And toes out, heel in. And we send our sitting bones down between our heels. Now, we come into Malasana pose. Now here, a lot of people find it's challenging to grounding down the heels. Well, the good news here is you don't need to do that. So place a block under your sitting bones to reduce the ankles, reduce the dorsiflexion motion in your ankles. So don't take it too sharp. Just to find a stopping point for yourself. And always remember your knee, track your toes. Squeeze your legs together, especially the inner side of your ankle, so you can lift your arch instead of collapsing inward. That will hurt your foot, hurt your ankle, hurt your knee. Now, knee, track the toes, lift the arch, grounding down through the four corners evenly onto the mat, onto the ground. And take your toes softly here. We're not gripping into the mat. And just stay here to find your steady rhythmic flow of the breath. Well, another way to add on to this pose is to grounding down your left hand. Still keep the inner arch lifted and the knee track the toes. The other hand opening up to the ceiling. Add on some twist here. Exhale, release. The other side. The tendency here is to drop your knee inward. It's come naturally, but keep awareness into your foot, into your knee. Exhale, hands down. Grounding down through four corners of your feet. Engage your legs. Lift your sitting bones up off the block and rise up into our Tadasana pose. And exhale, hands down. Stand at the middle side of our mat and maybe keep your feet apart. Bend your knees, fingertips touch together. And then we jump to the sides by opening our steps. And now we keep our toes out, our heels in. Just to a point you feel you have enough stretch and being stable here. And now remember that your toes are not open too wide. They're just from the midline about 30 degrees out to 45 degrees. And now bend our knees, knee track your toes. If you find that here, if your knees drifting inward, that may be because your stance is too wide, or maybe because your toes are rolling outward too wide. So take it in slightly to protect your knees and grounding down the four corners of the foot. And toes soft, lift the arches high here. And send your sitting bones down and in. Keep your hands on your hips, open your chest. Keep your torso upright here. Okay, just to stay here or add on some movements. Inhale, straighten the legs. And exhale, grounding down, maybe cactus arms, knee track the toes. And bring awareness into our Pada Bandha foot lock. Really strengthen our ankles, our calves. Well, when you come down into the goddess pose, try to pressing into the outer side of the foot. At the same time, grounding down the ball joint of the big toe, so they are not floating like this. Separate the weight evenly here. Try to activate your glutes. It will help you to activate your quads, your glutes. So you really get the benefits from this pose. And another way here is just like we do in our chair pose. So try to lift one heel, come onto the ball of the foot, grounding down the heel and switch sides. This movement will really build your strength in your ankles and build awareness in the outer side and inside of the foot, especially have the bunion issues or weak feet, or maybe lift up the heel together and grounding down. Inhale, straighten the legs. Open your arms, have a good stretch here. And exhale, hands down. Okay, now we come into side lunge here. Well, in side lunge, maybe you need an even wider stance. Now here, if side lunge is too much for you, maybe just like what we did in Malasana pose, try to have a block under your sitting bones or just in front of you, under your hands to help you move side to side, or just under your sitting bones to support you here. Well, when we're in side lunge pose, still keep the toes open out within 30 to 45 degrees. The difference here within the goddess pose is I shift my weight into my right foot, my right leg. I'm grounding down through four corners of my straightened leg, the foot of my straightened leg. So my foot is stable and grounded here. Toes soft, lift my inner arch. So the same with my bent foot, with my foot of my bent leg. Four corners grounding down, lift my arch. Toes soft, knee track the toes, bend the knee. Shift my weight into my bent leg. And I lean forward, hinge from my hip creases, hands on my hip or prayer position. Inhale, lift up, and let's do the other side. So shift my weight, knee track the toes, find your pada bandha, your foot lock in your left foot. The foot of the straightened leg can ground it here, or someone can lift the foot, grounding down the heel. So just lower down at your own mount. This motion will stretch the outside of the ankle and strengthen your muscles in your soles, and find the balance. Help you to lift the arches all the time. Now, if you find you're stuck here, maybe you need to shorten your stance. Inhale back to center and hands down. Now to come out, toes facing forward. And now fingertips touch together, bend your knees and step back into our Tadasana pose. Send your sitting bones back and down into seated posture here. Well, here we bend our knees and cross our ankle over our opposite side. You can lean back to give you more space here. Fingertips pointing forward behind you. Flex your right foot, the top foot, to protect your knee here. So you don't need to aggressively draw the toes into the knees. Just to a small ankle, you feel good, you feel comfortable with that. Now we switch sides. You can wrap the outer left hip forward to gain more stretch here. So always some students ask me why we need to flex the foot to protect the knee. Because if you flex the foot, the muscles will going around your knee. The muscles will protect your knee. But if you loose here, if you are softly here, the knee is just a bone joint and without any protection. So this is what we're gonna do to activate the muscles in the calves, around the knees. And then we release. Now, maybe some windshield wiper movements. Maybe bring awareness into your ankles when you do this. And then we come onto our back. And grab a block, take the block under your sacrum. The sacrum is not the lower back. The sacrum is the flat bone area, not the softly lower back part. And now here, maybe you need to into your bridge pose by lifting your sitting bones up. Add on some mounting version here and grounding down. So in every poses, even this supine poses, always remember that you are grounding down through both sides of the heels, both sides of the ball joints, and you are not gripping into the mat. Lift the arches as you lift the hips up. Lower our sacrum down on the block. You can just stay here or lift the knees together. And then straighten your legs, maybe micro bend your knees if that feels much better for you. And here, well, my favorite pose here is to add on some movements in our ankles as we in the waterfall pose. So you can point the toes, stretch the tops of the ankle, this plantar flexion, and add on some dorsiflexion by flex the foot. Draw the toes softly into your knees. Just like this pumping, this rhythmic pumping movements will definitely help you to pump the blood back into your legs, back into your heart. As we said in the previous video about the varicose veins, this movement is really nice if you have the swelling veins, bulging veins at the back of the legs. Or maybe you just need to get the swelling off at the end of a full day. Or maybe rotate the ankles and then the other way. So if you want to build the foot mobility, stretching and strengthening and control, they are all very important for the mobility of your feet. So just during this flow of yoga practice, add on some gentle stretch and some slow strengthening and some stability with awareness. And then bend the knees, grounding down the soles of feet on the floor. Take the block away from you. And maybe draw the knees into the chest, rock it side to side. So here, just let the ankles naturally relax here. There is no motion for them right now. They're already doing a lot of work here. Now, extend your legs out long. You can just stay here for your Shavasana here. Just let your breath come steady and slow. Well, sometimes we practice yoga, maybe the same or the similar asanas every time, but the different awareness you build in your different practice will definitely make a huge difference. Like today, when we bring our attention into our feet, into our arches, into our ankles, do you really feel the difference in your body. The feet are our foundation of our whole body. If the feet are healthy, are strong, are flexible, our legs are much healthier, our pelvis, our spine will be nice and strong. But vice versa, if some issues happen in our feet, if like the weak feet or some not appropriate posture, that will definitely damage our upper body health. So maybe from today, add on this foot mobility awareness into your yoga practice. Now stay here as long as you need, or roll yourself up. And we come on to our mat. I hope this video will be helpful for your practice, no matter if you have the flat feet issues or bunions issues like me, or if you just want to build some strength, add on some flexibility practice. So yeah, just let me know in the comments if you have some other ideas or some feedback. I really appreciate it for that. Thank you so much for your practice with me today. So just take care, and we will see you in the next video. Namaste.